Okay, let's be really honest with each other right now and just admit that there has been at least one time where we have said something like, oh, I'm so bad with technology, or technology hates me, or this is too complicated, I can't figure it out. And maybe it's something like setting up a welcome sequence, or knowing what app to buy so that you can stream on a Facebook group, or maybe it's as simple as figuring out how to resize a video so you can post it on Instagram stories or Pinterest or whatever, right? Hands up if this has been you. I get it. Like, the whole concept of content has now become also related to the concept of technology, and specifically apps and things that are meant to make things simple, but can sometimes make things a little more challenging, especially if we have what I call a tech block, a block around believing that technology is going to be simple. So in this episode, I want to talk about, first of all, the apps and the tech that we use at Erin Trafford Story and Strategy. But I'm also going to tell you the apps and the technology that we have ditched. I'm going to get really specific, and I'm going to tell you why. And I think you're going to appreciate the fact that the why is truly because I don't like when things are complicated. So if things get too complicated, we tend to ditch our approach. By the way, I'm Erin Trafford, digital entrepreneur, mentor, and strategist, and this show is all me sharing my true-to-life, authentic, no BS approach to business building. I promise to share with you the reality of what it takes to turn an idea into profit and a passion into a business. This is where we break down the creative art of storycraft, of content creation, and of showing up to activate your business from a place of strength and a place of meaning. This is also where we release the need for shoulds, for the coulds, and for the maybes. This is permission to leap. All right, let's dig into this and talk about tech. I know, your head is probably like, what the heck? But I decided to do this show building on the last show where we talked about tracking things, about how a solid content strategy has a blend of two things, right? Accountability to the energy of what you're trying to do, but also accountability to the data. What is the data telling you? So that really opened us up to having this conversation about the brass tacks of it. Like, how is this getting done? And one of the things that really bothers me is when I spend a lot of money on programs, or I buy a course, or I take a masterclass or whatever, and it talks a lot around the topic of how and never actually gets to the how. And this is why, I'll be perfectly honest, in my new mentorship that we spent like basically 5 or 6 months developing, it was crucial to me that new mentorship program really be a blend of both the why am I doing this and the how am I doing this, because so many programs will tell you why to do something and not tell you how. And part of the how, not the whole of the how, but part of the how is the technology. Part of the how is, oh, this is the app we use and this is how we use it, right? That's fundamental to the how. So that's what we're talking about today. All right. So building on the idea of tracking and the idea of technology, but here's what I want you to hear me say when it comes to technology. We absolutely need to keep it simple. If the technology becomes the barrier to your content flowing out of you, there is a problem. So before you listen to the rest of this episode, or as you're listening, I just want you to take a deep breath and really ask yourself that question. Are you being blocked by the content? Are you being blocked by the actual story getting out of you? Right? Do you really have writer's block, or show up block as it can be called? Or are you feeling blocked by a belief that the tech is too complicated, that you don't want to sit down and do all of the things, right? Ask yourself that question. And I don't know the answer. Maybe you're just like, no, I really am blocked by having the content come out of me. It's not the technology at all. But maybe you're like, oh shit, Erin, you know what? You're right. The block isn't that I'm worried about having nothing to say, or, maybe you just need to refine what you want to say. That's fine. We work on that. We work on refining it and making sure that it resonates. But maybe that's not the block. Maybe the block is just that you are in app-induced overwhelm. And I've seen it happen. And then when we clear that muck, oh, magic happens because you're like, oh, it can be simple. This is this simple. My story can just come out of me. Yeah, girl. Yeah. Okay, so let's just define it. What we call the apps that we use at Erin Trafford Story and Strategy. And listen, like this is not an exhaustive list, but I'm going to share with you as much as I can and give you some insight. So we call it our tech stack. And the reason I like to call it a tech stack is because you do have a hierarchy of things. Some tech is more important than others. And I like to think of it like building blocks. Like I have two little girls who play with blocks all the time. So like a Jenga house. So you're always building and you're always building. But here's what I want you to hear in that analogy or see or in your mind's eye understand is that the tech stack needs to support itself. Right? You don't want to put a block on top of your tech stack that's going to cause the rest of the tech to break or fall apart. Actually, Jenga is the perfect analogy, right? You don't want to build a shaky tech stack. So the simpler and the lower to the ground you can build it, the better. So we call it our tech stack. It's our content tech stack. Now we have another stack that is used for payments and programs, right? That's a different tech stack, but this one is specifically related to how we manage the content in our business. So let's break it down. We'll talk about written content because obviously like one of my core competencies, one of the things that I love to teach about is blogging, which is for the most part associated with written content. Now you can do video blogs, technically a podcast is like an audio blog, technically it is, but anyway, let's look at it, written content as blogging. So here's where I will tell you that I have tried everything because blogging, I have been blogging almost as long as I have been podcasting. Little known fact, I've actually been podcasting since 2006 and I have been blogging since 2012. So blogging, I get asked this question all the time, what platform should I choose to blog on? If you have the option, I choose WordPress every single time. If you have the option. Now I know that can put people into tech overwhelm, but here I'm going to give you a couple of options and I'm going to contextualize them for you. Right now, I have two websites. I have my lifestyle website, and then I also have erintrafford.com. Both of them have WordPress as the blogging generator, but erintrafford.com, which is our consulting and our business website, actually Story Studio Network also as well, is built on the Showit platform, SHOWIT, Showit platform. And the way I want you to envision this is if WordPress and Photoshop had a baby. And what I also want you to feel from me is I freaking love it. I love it so hard. I want to recommend it to most people. It's not for everyone, but for most people. So if you're like, oh my God, WordPress is too complicated, consider Showit because it's a little bit of a midway between going all the way into WordPress design, templates, all of that gobbledygook that you can really get into the weeds on WordPress. Showit kind of mitigates some of that. Now, the other blogging option is obviously Squarespace. And I'm thinking in my head, I think about 50% of my current students are on Squarespace. And I have operated sites on Squarespace. I recommend it to some people depending on what it is you're trying to do. Squarespace is also great. So that's the foundation, right? You need a great foundation for your written content. So we are using essentially WordPress by way of Showit is what we are using. Recommend. Pricing, I don't have that committed to memory. I always see this as part of my problem is like, I actually love investing in these kinds of things. So, I think I bought the top tier and I want to say we're paying about $400 a year for the website, which is really reasonable when compared to Squarespace or Squarespace plus Shopify. Like it's very competitive pricing. It's not above and beyond what you would expect to pay for website hosting and all of that stuff. So Showit's great. Now, you'll be surprised to know that we used to use an Asana for a content calendar, and I found it was too cumbersome because my brain, as you know, if you have worked with me, my brain doesn't work on a calendar. I don't like the confines of a calendar. And Asana is great. Like that's not knocking Asana. You can still use it for team management and project management and all of those things. My previous VA moved us over to ClickUp, which is much the same. It's a project management tool. Hear me say that. It's a project management tool. It's not necessarily a content management tool. So I don't use that. My team uses it, and that's great. But for my sake, how I manage our content week to week is a simple Google Drive that we label. And this is how we label things. We label them by project. So in this case, content would be blog posts, podcasts, videos, program material, for example. Those would all be, and newsletters, email newsletters, those would all be in folders. Then every folder has a corresponding Google spreadsheet where we record the date, we record the title, any salient information. So if it's a blog post, we'll record the keywords, we'll track the metrics, and we'll link back to the original source Google Doc. That's it. It's so simple. So I'm able to look at the spreadsheet, which we break down month by month because my team needs to see it month by month. And that's it. That's how we track. Every 3 months, we evaluate the 3 months previous. It's so stinking simple. So I write in a Google Doc, it gets transferred over to WordPress, and then we put the appropriate links in the appropriate places, and that's it. Okay? WordPress and Google Drive. It does not have to be more complicated than that. So when it comes to video content, what do we use? Video, I've tried a lot. I've tried a lot of things for video. Because working in TV, I kind of nerd out about editing capabilities and all these kinds of things. So I'll tell you what we are using. Right now, the only video software that we're using specifically for video is StreamYard. StreamYard we use to go live in our Facebook groups. So in my program groups, and so on and so forth. I don't use it very often, but that's the one we recommend. It's the most stable. It's super simple to use. StreamYard for live streaming. In terms of video creation, though, we have ditched a lot of apps that complicated the freaking process. I used to use Animoto. I ditched that. I used to use Lumen 5. I ditched that. Sometimes I will enable a 1-month subscription on an app called wave.video, I believe, if I want to make a super slick like countdown for something like a Facebook Live. So I'll buy a month subscription, make the thing I want to make, and then I cancel the subscription. So I can't even say that we use that to any degree of, with any degree of consistency. I also have a license that I keep up to date for a desktop app for video editing called Camtasia. This would be my second favorite video editing app for the reason that you don't have to be online to use it. It's not a web-based app. So you can like go to the cottage or you can go camping and like you can still technically edit video. Why you would do that, I don't know. I also like it because it's not a monthly fee. It's like a one-time cost. You download the app and then you get X number of updates to the software. It'll do things like resize your video. It'll put picture in picture. It has pretty robust editing capabilities. There's a decent knowledge base so that you can like take their little mini course and like learn most of the things. Things it doesn't have, though, are captions, which we're learning now in this day and age when you're creating content. Captioning your content is super important, like burning those captions in, especially if you're sharing to places like LinkedIn, even on Instagram or Facebook to a certain extent. Even though they have technically built-in captions, I find they're not that reliable. So the reason it's not at the top of my list is because of a couple things like that. In terms of affordability, Camtasia is super affordable. Because you're only paying one time. I think it's like $300, maybe less, $200. It's not expensive. And like you pay one-time fee. Okay, so that's what we use for video. Now, I want to put audio in its own category because we're talking about written, video, and audio. Obviously, a lot of the work I do is podcasting. I run a production company. Some of my clients are running podcast funnels. Like we do a lot of talk about the power of audio. We keep this also extremely simple. So when we're recording or producing podcasts, we use a blend of the stack that we use for written content. So Google Drive and spreadsheets to track everything in terms of the content, the name of the episode, the intent of the episode, the key points in the episode, the key mentions in the episode in case we have to go back and re-record it. In the case of some of my corporate clients, we talk about the people we interviewed in the episodes in case they want to send it out and distribute it to other networks. We can say, oh, in this episode, we talked to the marketing director at XYZ brand. Here, send it over to them. We track the dates that we are recording them. And then, of course, we always link back to the source document where we just put kind of brain dump notes. So that's the spreadsheet system. But in terms of the technology, we use Libsyn to host all of our audio. I know a lot of people come to us and they want to do something on Anchor FM. They want to use Blueberry. They want to use some of these really like basic podcasting apps. Buzzsprout, sometimes people want to use. We use Libsyn for all of our corporate clients because the stats are incredible. Podcast stats are still growing. They're not super accurate yet. It's not like having a blog or a website, but so when you can get decent statistics and decent measurements, take it. Libsyn has the best. And then the other reason that we use Libsyn is because the support is second to none. Every time I have filed a support ticket, they've just been on it. And so I can honestly say that makes a difference when you're recommending or using a product on the regular. So that's why we're pretty loyal to Libsyn. Now, here's the other thing that we use. Right now, we use two apps to record podcasts. This one that I'm recording on right now is called Descript. When we do corporate clients or some of our more major market clients, we use an app called Riverside FM. But most of my clients want to hear about Descript. Descript is my favorite app ever created. Amen. It lets you record your screen. You can record with your camera. So as I'm recording this video, you can record the audio, and it edits like a Word document. So you can drag and drop photos and it'll just cover up your picture. You can add captions. You can delete parts of your audio simply by highlighting the words in the transcript and deleting it. It also auto-generates transcripts. It's basically my favorite app of all time. And I should say that I do a whole tutorial on how I use Descript in Stories for a Year as a bonus training. I like legit love Descript so much that I actually wrote to them and I was like, listen, I don't even know if you have an affiliate program, but I love this app and I want to be able to recommend it all over town. And they were great. They gave me a special affiliate code, and I'm in their beta tester group and all that stuff. So now a couple things about Descript though. It does operate on your desktop. It's not a web-based app. You can use the web-based app, but it's not fabulous yet. Anyway, if you are afraid of editing, this is my point. If you are afraid of editing, Descript is your friend. Descript is your friend, my friend. She makes it easy, folks. And yes, there is an entire training module on just Descript in Stories for a Year because I just felt that passionate about it. So that's what we use. So to sum all of this up, we keep our content tech stack so effing simple. It is simple. We don't use schedulers, we use spreadsheets, okay? Maybe we'll get to the point where we start to use schedulers, but I want to talk later about schedulers and why I have a love-hate relationship with them. Because I love organic, because I love energy, I feel like schedulers suck the energy out of your content. Honesty point, our social media strategist, Lindsay Stockel, who works on Team Trafford, uses Planoly. But the only reason we use Planoly for Instagram is an app is so that we can see what she's planned. See the pictures she's created, see the graphics she's created. It's not the way we actually send the content into the world. Everything gets posted organically. So maybe I'll do a whole other episode just on my thoughts about schedulers, but I want you to hear me say it doesn't have to be complicated. We are using a very basic web platform, Showit and WordPress via Showit. We are using, for the most part, Google Drive and Google Sheets to keep track of our content, make sure we're in line. We use StreamYard for video streaming, and sometimes I just freaking use Facebook, and when I go live on Instagram, I just go live on Instagram. For audio, we are using Libsyn. We are using very well created and pointed spreadsheets to track the content, especially when we do client work. And we use Riverside FM and Descript. You guys, that's it. We do not spend the moon on apps. We spend more energy on the content we are creating. And that is what I want for you. So if you're suffering from a tech block, I hope this helped you take permission to simplify it all. This episode of Permission to Leap is brought to you by Stories for a Year, the only content strategy program delivering you custom curated weekly and monthly plans to help keep you accountable to your content, your story, and your business flow. When you join Stories for a Year, you will be granted immediate access to your first month of prompts so you can dive right in. But beyond that, you'll also unlock a whole bunch of bonus strategy trainings, including ones on Canva, Pinterest, and of course, Descript. Stories for a Year is my foundational program, and it's designed to get you thinking about your story and your content differently. And it's available now at erintrafford.com/stories-for-a-year. And here's the clincher is that it's definitely much less expensive than you think. I guarantee this program is the beginning to unlocking your content flow and making things much easier when it comes to writing, speaking, and showing up in your business. Check the link in the show notes or check under programs at erintrafford.com to grab your enrollment in Stories for a Year now. This has been Permission to Leap, a podcast produced by me, Erin Trafford, with the support of Eye Contact Productions and Story Studio Network. Music for the podcast is supplied by archesaudio.com. If you love this show, please consider leaving me a 5-star review over on Apple Podcasts because it goes a long way to helping other people find the show. Don't forget to follow along on Instagram at its.erintrafford and tag me with your takeaways and thoughts. If you're interested in learning more about my programs and services at Erin Trafford Story and Strategy, or if you'd like to book me to speak at your event or be on your podcast, head to erintrafford.com or drop us an email at team@erintrafford.com. Thanks for listening. Until next episode.